Okay, there we go. Good morning, everybody. Hello, welcome. Hopefully, you can hear me okay using this little microphone. So let me know if you can't. And if you can't, well, then I guess this is meant to be heard by no one except myself. But my name's Fola. Welcome. I was going to host the Zoom Ouroboros this morning initially, and then last night I was just feeling so exhausted. I think maybe I am caught something. I've been processing a lot of energy lately. So I think now my body's like, hey, it's time to sleep. So I'm on here doing the live instead because something was just telling me to do this. When we're going to see the direction of those circles, I kind of feel like it may be the time and energy would be best kept even just doing lives again, so that more folks who don't know about the circles could still receive some of the information. And it's kind of been taking a different direction, I find, around more me just sharing some of these insights of the things that I've been reading. So welcome. If you're new here, feel free to subscribe. We're going to be talking about the elements and the number 5, because the number 5 has been showing up for me a lot lately. And there's something about this number. So, I want to just say, if any of what I say doesn't make sense, that's okay. This is about the vibration, the frequency. When I started my journey through anything like occult, esoteric, magic, I'll be honest, it was just over my head, especially when it came to the Kabbalistic stuff, which is a lot of what is kind of my main focus. So it draws upon the Hebrew language, which I'm not a fluent, or I don't speak really any Hebrew at all. I learned Arabic growing up a bit. So I have a bit of an understanding there. And now, over the past few years, studying more about Hebrew and Kabbalah and all this, it seems to be sitting. So wherever you are in your journey, I just want to speak to you about that. Just be open to hearing. And I'm going to share some of these insights and the thoughts around what are these elements. So if you're new here, you might not know this, but I used to be very much focused on the shamanic path. So in shamanism, we learn about the medicine wheel. And the medicine wheel has technically 4 cardinal directions. So we have east, we have west, we have the south, and we have the north. Okay. These 4 directions, there's different teachings based on the different indigenous peoples, dependent on where they are located in the world. But these 4 are considered the main ones. And these all associate to the main 4 elements. Okay. And that's where it can get, when I was learning the shamanic path, it's more Toltec tradition is what I learned. And we have here in the East, we would have fire. And then we have, oh my goodness, bear with me, earth, water, air in the north. Oh my goodness, I feel like it's been so long since I've done that form. So we have these 4 directions, and we also have the direction in the center, which is literally the center, right? It's the everything point in which everything can go to. Also in the medicine wheel, we have these non-cardinal directions, which also represent different energies, different themes, we could say. But it's also here in the Northeast, we'd have the combination of both the East and the North energy. So this concept of the medicine wheel, this concept of the 4 with the 1, the 5 elements, it's all kind of tied together. And that's kind of what I wanted to get into, share a bit. So let me know in the comments, what's your understanding about the elements? I might make this bigger. What is your perception, or the teachings that you have come with, I guess we could say? Because in magic, I had to let go of what I learned with the shamanic path. Let go, but also what I found started to happen was I would see my reality from both. both lands. Not that they're really different, but it was just like different ways. Because even, like I said, different, here in Alberta, the indigenous, like the local indigenous people, a lot of Cree, Dene, like this, the teachings can vary, where in the east or the south, it's a different element. It's a different animal, depending, compared to like the Toltec teachings, which come from like the south. So we're going to go into what these are, but I was thinking this morning, I like woke up with the thought of how come there are these 4 elements, technically the 5 though, right? Because there's the 4, fire, earth, water, air, and they all combine to join into what is spirit. And there's different ways in like magic systems that we will draw upon these elements, tap into them, draw them physically on like paper or in the air, which is usually what's happening. But everything is this representation of like the all. And so I wanted to just share, and you're gonna all see how great of a drawer I am when there's pressure to perform in front of people. Oh my God. But we have this 6-rayed star, okay? The 6 points of the star. And this is what is known in like the Jewish tradition, like the Star of David. I'm not sure if they could call it that. Like, sorry, you guys, if anyone knows the actual name in like the Hebrew, maybe it'll come to me. But here in this, we have the representation of both the above and the below. This is the representation of everything. But it's not just the representation of like the macrocosm, which is above, and the microcosm, which is below. This is also the representation of all of these other elements, because this, in essence, we identify this is spirit. And we know that spirit is everything. And so here we can start to break it down into the 4 elements, where we have, we'll start with air. Woo. So we can take the top facing, like, or the upward facing triangle with the line through it and create air from there. We can then take just that triangle, the upward facing triangle, and we create fire. We create fire. But you can draw fire from it. And then you would take a downward facing triangle. So this downward facing triangle. And this would be water, the chalice, the cup, the womb. And then finally, because we need 4 of them, we take the downward facing triangle and a part of that like upward facing triangle. And what do we get? Earth. So I drew before that medicine wheel. Ooh, it looks like you'll actually be able to see it if I'm drawing it here. That's great. So again, that medicine wheel, the magic circle, it's all the same thing. It's just symbolism thrown across all the different like teachings and belief systems out there. We have these all within that circle. And so depending on the system you're following, hi there, Salem. Nice to have you join us. We could say in the center is spirit. This is how I like draw in my like shamanic lens. And then we have these other directions, east, west, south, north. So again, like I said, different teachings have different ways of showing it, but in the magical system, and I'm going to reference these, this text here, the Aleister Crowley's, what is this? Book 4. I don't know. I always want to call it the equinox. Sorry. I think there's just like lots of reference to the equinox. This looks different to everyone. This is just the copy that I have, but Crowley's book 4, it's like contains so many different books, so many different charts. But on page 561 in this one, where he goes into, I think this might actually be the Sefer Sephira. Don't quote me on it. Where is this from? Oh no, it's just book 4. Never mind. I don't know. There are all these tables and charts. And here we can see the different elements. And I'm going to write these out on the board based on like, this is like the magical system that we would follow in like the Hermetic Qabalistic or whatever high magic perspective. So in the East, here we'd have the Archangel Raphael, and this is where we have the element of air. I hope you can all see this. It's probably very small for some of you. Maybe I'll write it up here. So air is in the East, okay? Also in the East here, like I said, we have the Archangel Raphael. The Archangel Raphael, in my perspective, but I'm just like, it's kind of like the head, but also like the healing energy. There's a lot of like, I want to say initiation that can happen almost within the space. In the shamanic lens, we have the East is like where the sun rises. So the new dawning, everything kind of begins in the East, which is interesting too. I'm not, as you may or may not know, I'm on a Lucifer kick right now. And Lucifer is considered like the air angel in like the demonic sense, if we can say that. Even though Lucifer is like an angel, but Lucifer is the light bringer. Everything starts in that place where the sun rises, right? The first light, morning star, was actually the name for Lucifer. That's Venus, the first light that comes before the sun rises. The just so some of you may know, if you want to like add more, because everything, you know, we call them correspondences in the magic world. Correspondence is like the energetics that are similar across different themes or different like paradigms, we could say. And so here we have like the element of air, right? We have the corresponding direction, we could say. We have the corresponding archangel, but there's also corresponding, like so many other correspondences. Like we could also correspond this air, I believe, is smell. So how you're smelling or being able to sense through that, like physical sense, which we're going to get into why the senses are important too, I hope. But also here we have the tarot correspondence of swords. And so in the tarot, there are like the major arcana cards, excuse me, like the Fool, the High Priestess, the Hermit, the Devil card. But then we also have 4 elemental cards, which all correspond to these directions, the different elements, and also the different worlds of the tree of life, which I'm not going to get into right now, because I feel like I'm still learning a lot about that. But also the swords has to do with like the thoughts. Again, what happens first? I mentioned, like if the sun's rising, if we get any idea for a creative process, what happens first? Well, there has to be like a thought in a way, right? Something sparks the thought. We could say spirit gives us that thought, or we pick up on it somehow, or from a blueprint, whatever. But here we have the element of swords. Maybe I'll just throw this out here as well. They also, in like some of the occult system, there's different ways to like deepen astral practice. And these are like the tattvas. And this is related to Vayu, which is like a blue circle. I don't even know if I had to say that, but I'm going to just share it because there are different breath techniques that you can use dependent on each of these 5 elements. And if you're interested in that, how you draw upon each element using the breath technique, then I definitely recommend those tattva, TATTWAS or VAS. I think there's different ways to spell it. Anyway, so this air element is in the East, ruled by Archangel Raphael. I'm not going to go into all the demonic princes of it because I don't know a whole lot. I guess I could, but next we have this element of fire. So, you know, we get the thought, and then what happens? Actually, really what happens, we go to the West, which is water. So maybe I'll jump there, you guys, because water is the emotionality, okay? Water is the space, and here water is denoted in the West, in the magical system. It's the chalice. In the shamanic world I worked in, as I said, it was actually the earth, but the interesting part about that is that we identify the West in the shamanic practice that I learned with the womb, which is still the chalice. It's still the cup, right? So there is a connection there. There's an intersection between both. So here in the West, we have water. And this is ruled by Archangel Gabriel. I just love that name. Even there's something really like it's powerful, but also like I want to say feminine and like welcoming. That's probably which W water. Maybe that's why. I think Leviathan. It is Leviathan is the prince or whatever for this direction. Which I'm not going to, but because if you know anything about the myth of Leviathan, it's like the water. Okay. And I want to just preface something at preface is maybe it's too late for a preface because we're like partway through the talk. But like the direction of my channel is definitely like shifting. I want to share more of this stuff, but like what I want to share you guys is not like, I feel like everything out there is so imbalanced. Not everything, a lot of things. A lot of channels are just like focused on one way of being. Within the spiritual world, everything seems to be, not everything again, but a lot of the hyper focus, almost like a spiritual bypassing on like love and light. And I'm like a mixed person. This has been like my life story is how do we draw in both realities, light and dark? Literally for me, white and black. And I feel like there's so much fear of one and the other. You have, I was listening to a meditation and some people were commenting how, thank God this meditation is a bit like more like light because everything out there on the particular entity is so dark. And it's like, it's a little scary. It's like, we just swing so far in the polarity. It's like, how do we bring balance? And to me, this is what this symbol means. It's what spirit is. It's literally the balance of the upper and the lower of the mind or spirit and matter. Okay. And that's kind of what I hope to do or bring here. So if you're feeling uncomfortable about, me writing Leviathan or Lucifer or talking about some of these like energies, or you don't like when I talk about Christ consciousness, about, because this is part of even the Kabbalistic path, I want to invite you to like, just notice where those feelings are in your body and just like honor it and welcome it to be with you. And that like nothing needs to change in your world, that you don't let anything in or make any like commitments to a new way of life until you really feel like you're ready. This is what's important around balance, about walking this path of like as above, so below, but also what we call the middle pillar. This is like ma'at, balance. This is what I think is ultimately needed. And the only way we can do that is if we represent both sides. Ooh, I just said that all. And sorry about the noise in the background. There's like a bunch of construction because things would be changing in this place. So here we have water in the west. There's that flow energy. It's all about emotionality. And what better thing to represent emotionality in the tarot but the water, the cups. So when we see cups on the tarot cards or as the minor arcana, that usually represents something tied to our emotions, okay? But also like, how can water be? Are we flowing in life or out of life and so forth? So recognize even how I like started writing these two, because we're going to be going into this one like formula that Crowley talks about. I'm going to actually read from the chapter in the book. And this is the first letter, Aleph. And this is the last letter, Mem. And I like how Crowley says something towards the end, which we'll get into, about how, Mem in the Hebrew alphabet has two different forms of being written. There's like the wave form, which is usually they write it when it's like at the beginning or in the middle points of a word. But then there's also final Mem, if I can write it properly, where it's like represents a still point. And this is when you put it at the end of a word. And so there's different ways of us being within water is kind of what I'm getting at with that. Water can be chaotic. I remember going snorkeling in Cuba and like almost dying. The water was so choppy. Above the water was choppy. When I was in the water, it was like peaceful underneath, but I was scared shitless because I don't like things swimming against me. Okay, anyway, just a little known fact. So water here, this element, this chalice, the cup, known as the womb, the place that holds. This is tied to the tattva. I believe it's apas. Is that here? Yes. which is a silver crescent, like the moon crescent that you would see on the High Priestess card. So very much a feminine energy, right? Water. Next, we're going to go to fire. Fire is in the south. Oh, this pen, I tell you. There we go. Okay. Fire is in the south. And good old Archangel Michael or Michael rules this area. Oh, what's the demon prince is like Flurious or something? If anyone can tell me the name, oh, I'm so sorry. That shows you how much I know about that, see? But that would be the name. Something, I think it's FE or FL. So don't go calling on anything until you actually do your research, people. But after we get the thought of air, and then we get the excitement of the water, okay? Then we start to get into the direction of moving. Things are moving. Fire brings about like a movement, right? Like I have a candle here. If I were to like hold my hand over it, like I can only last so long, and then I'll have to be like, because it moves. It's initiating as well. Like it like gets us going. And here in the fire, we have what's known as the wands, okay? On the tarot minor arcana, the tarot card deck. So this, usually I would identify the fire as like, there's something kind of, and I'm not like a professional tarot reader. I know I do card readings and stuff on here. I kind of go like intuitively what's showing up. But to me, like fire is that initiating, like there's something that wants to be done here. What actions are you taking? And I oftentimes, when I'm calling in the element of the fire, facing the direction of the south, say during like the lesser banishing ritual or LBRP, it's like in the south, I can see Archangel Michael with like the wand, kind of like a huge staff, like he's like spinning it. And it's just like creates this movement. And so this red initiating, moving energy is something that I think can be really beneficial. Here we have Tejas, which is funny because it's totally like an ex-boyfriend from high school. This energy of fire, like, my friend used to sing this song, like, he's so contagious, he turns my pages. Anyways, I digress on that. But I just find that really interesting that this red energy, this moving energy can get us can spark us and get us going on our path of what we're creating, even in life. So we get the thought, we get the excitement, and then the fire gets us moving to start to create and manifest, to put in the time and the effort, the work to do the things that we're being shown, like we're seeing it. And here with fire, I didn't really say this, but we have air as smell, right? Water, I think, as taste, and fire as feeling, or sight, to be able to see. And I just listened to, I think it was a talk. No, it was a video. I might have actually shared it on Instagram or something. So you can head over to my Instagram, like deep_mind_squared or something it is. And I really like what the guy said. He said, he's like, when you're on the path, like you're living out your path or your life purpose, he's like, once the path is not seen, that's how you know you're going the right direction. And that like really stood out to me very strongly. Just because sometimes it feels like, well, we should be able to see everything, right? But sometimes you just can't. Sometimes, and fire is very transmutational. I was just doing a meditation this morning, and the being that I was working with like came and basically was like, here's the fire, now use it for the transmutation. And we've had a major like forest fire, wildfires going through just like west of in towards the mountains. There's a very like a tourist town, a city, I would call it. It's quite big, called Jasper. And it's basically like, I don't know, like probably like half of it's been burnt down because of these forest fires, which is really, really unfortunate. So holding those people up, the people who've lost things, the animals in the area, it's like fire, to notice that in the reality as like fire is initiating and transmuting things around us in our physical reality, I would invite you to also draw upon what's shifting in your life, okay, when fire shows up. Can't tell you how many clients I've had who like come and they're like, my house, it's burnt down, or they've lost something due to fire. And it's like, which it's horrible, horrible. I can't even imagine, like what that feeling of, like a devastation to lose your physical belongings, your space, etc. And also like, what is that like bringing about? You get to draw upon that as like a sacrifice, right? Burnt offerings. This sounds horrible. I know some people might be like, I can't ever get to that point. It's like, in anything that we lose, what can we draw upon energetically so that we can start to use it as well to move forward into what's going to be the fourth element of earth, right? And earth is in the north here. Oh, I'm drawing it. And here in the earth, in the north, we have Archangel Uriel. We also have Belial in like the demonic-y sense or whatever. Can I call it that? I don't know. This one was like the hardest one for me to connect to, which was I found interesting. When we do that LBRP, which, it's recommended you do it morning and night, as many times as you can, but morning and night for sure, especially when you're first getting into it. And then I think you find your groove of like when. So not just only in before ritual time to like banish the energies of the space, but here I found it hard to connect to the energy of the earth by the visualization of Uriel. Like I said, I could see Michael spinning his staff or wand or whatever. Uriel, I couldn't. I was like, hey, I want to see you. Green, yellow is usually a color that I've associated with it. And that like he's supposed to be holding what is identified in the tarot minor arcana as the pentacles or the discs, which is the earth element. It's like the physical objects that we have, money is like kind of what it's showing. It's like that is like gold itself is like kind of like the highest achieved element or aspect of this physical earth, that philosopher's stone. But I couldn't see it. It was like, oh, and then I read, I think somewhere, maybe it was just like a Reddit thread, someone had given the recommendation of connecting with Uriel with holding not gold or something, but like the physical earth. And the recommendation was husks of corn. And as soon as I like got that information, it just like unlocked something. And I think for me, it was like hyper focus at the time on money for like trauma related things and etc. But like once I connected this Uriel to like not just the physical like things that are created, like this table or the computer or whatever, but like the first thing of the earth that was created, which is nature, then it started to like open. And that truly is the abundance that we experience. I was sitting here, you can't see it, but all behind you, it's like just the backyard and like the neighbor's backyard and then like the ravine. And I can just see like green, huge trees, just lush greenery, and a reminder of like that abundance of nature in the earth. I see the squirrels running around and birds feeding in the bird feeders. Like, it's just like so beautiful. But here we have this energy of the earth, the last representation really, as spirit has moved itself through these elements to manifest something here. And like, what we did last year was that path working. If you're interested in working on the tree of life, which is another kind of method of connecting to the as above and the so below through the 10 spheres on the tree in like the Qabalistic path, you can check that out. It's on my website. You can sign up for the course, or you can also join the community membership, the Practicus membership here on YouTube. And it's like, that's like a monthly fee. So it's up to you if you want to just pay up front and get like the actual course on my website. That works too. But there's something about being able to tap into these elements or those 10 spheres and work our way down, up, or up, down. or whatever that form is, so that we can start to understand this whole concept of as above, so below, and the merger of these 5 elements. So with earth, what do we have here? Prithvi, I believe it is, for the tapa, the earth breath, which is a very common breath, even in the therapy. I was a therapist before, like a nurse, and the 4-fold breath, the grounding earth breath, is breathing in to the count of 4, holding in for the count of 4, exhaling for the count of 4, holding out for the count of 4. So just notice, my friends, how in everywhere, including like psychology, mental health supports, this magical practice stuff is being brought into like manifestation. People are drawing upon this. So why we learn these things, and we haven't even gotten to the part that I wanted to actually share. So we're getting there now. But if we want to create change in our life, we need to tap into these elements. We need to tap into the understanding of this magic circle, this medicine wheel of these elements, the 5 elements of spirit, air, fire, water, earth, and draw upon them. And what we do, even within the magic practices on our altars or in our life, we have the representation of all of these elements there, right? Incense for air, water for water, right? Plants or a disc or whatever that wants to be for you, for earth, etc. And so, I guess I should say also here, there'd be like a physical sword. So depends, I guess. You have your wand, like a magic wand, if you use a magic wand. So I want to just draw here. Oh, it's sad. I'm going to erase this. Letting it go, letting it go. Because I wanted to show these elements, not just here, but also on what is the pentacle. We went to San Francisco last summer, and we went to check out this really beautiful cathedral. And I think it was a United Church, like super old, might have been one of the first ones that were built there. And my partner and I are just like admiring it. It's like high ceilings. And right at the top, kind of at these archways, was the pentagram. And, like, it's funny because it's most people, it's like, first off, people aren't even going to notice that, right? People aren't going to see it. But then also, there is a need to recognize, hey, look how these aspects, they're not evil. They're, it's just that there's a misunderstanding about what they mean. And really, that's kind of what I want to show you here, is when we draw, if I can draw it, well, the 5-rayed star, if I want to call it that. So this is like the star. This is a representation of the 5, right? We got the 5 elements. And here I'm going to reference the book to make sure I do it correctly. We have spirit, which is often actually drawn like this, which I find interesting because it's kind of like, that's like the medicine wheel. And then we have water, fire, using my deductive skills, earth, because this is usually where we start when we're doing the vanishing ritual of the pentagram, depending on the direction, whether it's invoking or banishing. Oh my gosh, what do we have? Air here. So all the 5 elements are represented in this 5-pointed star, okay? What else is 5? We already talked about it. We have the 5 senses. So the 5 senses are tied to this. And that means then, like usually, whereas the 6-pointed star is like tied very much to like a spiritual realm, like spirit, we have the 5-pointed star representing the material realm. And I mean, like I said, the earth symbol itself is the pentagram, right? The pentacle, the disc. So we can see in the minor tarot arcana of the tarot, just how this is shown even within like this representation of humanity. So for us to connect to the star, like I said, even to represent that church, the cathedral I mentioned in San Francisco, to see that symbol high on the arches there, it's like what I was seeing was like God being like, I bless the physical earth with this like manifestation of a physical object of spirit on the land. And I don't know anything about the history of that place, so maybe the land was taken, whatever, like I'm not sure, so that sucks for sure. But representing this physical like coming down of spirit into the physical, onto the world, right? And we could also draw this as like an actual human. You got your head, you got your legs, your hands, or your arms and your legs, right? 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That, what is it? Is it Michelangelo's like Veruvian Man? I can't remember, where it's, you could see like the man standing with the arms and legs kind of extended out at those perfect angles. This is kind of like all the representation of that. Oh, so many things I want to get into about this, but I think for now, just recognizing these connections, and we're going to get into the actual reading from, let me see if I can find it in my book now. Oh, where is it? See, this is what happens when you have the book and then you close it again. Okay, I'm gonna have to look in the back. But we're gonna like go into this because I feel like there's something important, if I can say that. I'm gonna actually look up formula. Oh, and if I can't find it because now it's not meant to be shared, then so be it. Oh, I think it was that one. Okay. After the, or before this, part 4, I think it was part 3. Oh, we're getting close, folks. We're getting close, I think. Oh, it's crazy how this happens. Maybe this is meant to be shared at another time, and I'm not going to force it. Okay. And I definitely wanted to read it, so I'm not going to pretend like I know it off the top of my head. Yeah, okay. It's okay. Well, what I would definitely recommend for you, if you are interested in diving into a bit more about these elements, would be to actually get a copy of this book. What is this book for? And explore it yourself, because that's kind of like the whole point, in my opinion, of any of this magic work, is to explore it and understand it from your own lens. And like what I was going to do is just literally read it and have a bit of a conversation about the connection to the number 5, to these elements, and the magical formula of this, which is also like technically ALHIM, which is like the divine forces or gods. It's not just God. It says in the Bible, like Genesis, Elohim walked the earth or whatever, but it's actually like this denotes like a plural. So that means gods, goddesses, and it's also, I think Elohim is like technically like a feminine word, if you know anything about like the Hebrew grammar. But each of these letters, according to Crowley's like review of the formula, to use this as a formula, we call them formulas. It's almost like I would say like a key to unlock certain methods or ways of practice in magic. I believe this can be used for like consecration of different tools. So kind of like a way of blessing. But each of these corresponds to a different element. And yeah, I think I'm gonna have to talk about that again another time, because clearly I'm not supposed to read that. The chapter is physically popped out of it. I went and looked for the part and the chapter number there, and it's not there. It's not in the backs, in the index. So be it. This is what happens. I'm not. If you've been on my channel before, you know that sometimes these things just like, it's like elusive, and I just take it as it's not meant to be shared. So we close the lovely book. And you can let me know in the comments your thoughts, and maybe what are some ways you can start to draw upon these elements into your daily practice, whether you identify as a magician or a witch or however, magical practitioner or cultist. And if not, how are the elements showing up? Are you having an excess of water in your life? Are you having an excess of fire or earth? Whatever that thing might be, or even a lack of it, then there might be something there for you to explore around that element. And like I said, tuning into the breath, like the top buzz or those breath techniques for each of the elements can kind of help support. If not, I would just say maybe it makes sense, start with earth, that fourfold breath, which seems very common. It can help ground. And when we are grounded, when we are down here, then we're able to like more easily be like kind of like that tower that then can be receptive to receiving from spirit. Okay, we can't, like I said, be all in one way and not the other. We can't be all in just love and light and not represent also the darkness or the shadow. We need to have both. We need to have spirituality and materiality. I just made that up. So thank you for being here. For sure, if you feel like someone maybe needs to hear this, you can share it with them. Hit the like button, because that helps the algorithm know, like, hey, you liked it. I'm going to share it out to other people who might like it, that are kind of linked to you somehow. And yeah, it just gets this information out there for others to also develop and find more balance in their life. So I hope I'll see you guys soon. And until the next time, bye.